Gonna be honest, I'm not in a good mood right now. I had to play against Trevion Henderson tonight, and I freaking started Breece Hall. We'll talk about it all. We will update the rankings on the site. And yeah, I mean, I even had to play against the Patriots defense, which that was going well until the final freaking drive, or second to last drive, whenever it was. And you obviously had Justin Fields going out there and fumbling the snap. Whoever you want to blame it on, tomato, it doesn't matter. All I know is the Patriots defense logged some points against me. Let's go ahead and let's first talk about the New York Jets offense. If we're going to look at what we have here with Justin Fields, obviously not a great real life quarterback. Nobody is ever going to sit here and make an argument that Justin Fields is somebody that is going to turn around an NFL franchise. And I'm not going to fault somebody for making that argument when the Chicago Bears first drafted him, right? You haven't seen him in the NFL. Maybe you can be delusional enough to think it. Not going to fault anybody for there. But if anybody thought Fields going to turn around the Jets, what the hell are you talking about? Now, with that being said, he was out there running the ball a bunch. He had 67 rushing yards. He had the rushing touchdown. So in good matchups, which this was not, going up against the Patriots as a 2-touchdown dog was not a good spot. Fields could be startable. Like, I don't know if the Jets get to play. They're not going to get to play Cincinnati again. They already played them once. But if they had a matchup like the Bengals, obviously, you can go out there and put Justin Fields in. Now, going over to the running backs, this is what sucked. I started Breece Hall. And at the end of the day, we knew not to expect much. We talked about this in the running back rankings video. They were 2-touchdown dogs against the New England Patriots. What was Breece going to do here? What I'm frustrated with, though, as a Breece Hall owner, is so many of those just dump offs that got sent to a tight end. It would be like Breece Hall's running the most vanilla routes you can ever imagine. He's just running 5 yards upfield, turning around, standing there, pretty much with his hands at his sides, because he knows Justin Fields is not going to throw him the ball. Like, I thought we were going to get some garbage time receptions for Breece, and every check down went to the tight ends. It absolutely sucked. Like, I don't need to move Justin Fields in my rankings at all. Like, you weren't starting him beforehand. You're not starting him afterwards, unless it's a beautiful matchup in a streaming situation. Breece Hall, we added RB14. I have Breece Hall on my own team. I would trade him for Bucky Irving in a heartbeat right now. And then obviously we will be updating this Trevion Henderson ranking shortly. We will be updating that shortly. Let me know in the chat, who would you rather have, Breece Hall or Trevion Henderson rest of the season? Ugh. Going over to the receivers, John Mechie scores a touchdown. Super cool story, right, for John Mechie. But from a fantasy perspective, would you ever want to go through and start a Jets receiver not named Garrett Wilson? No. Doesn't matter if Garrett Wilson's on the IR. The only player that you would consider starting for the Jets here is Breece Hall. That's it. I'm going to be starting him, but I'm going to have running back 2 expectations, not RB1 expectations like he gave us last week. And then let's move over to the exciting stuff, right? Let's look at Trevion Henderson. And one thing that I had saw that made me unbelievably confident to start Trevion Henderson this week was just the projections that you had on Underdog coming into it. I mean, you had Trevion Henderson on Underdog, higher, lower, 102.5 total yards, which was more than Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Ashton Jitty. He had the 5th highest projection on Underdog Fantasy this week, which if you see something like that, you're going to assume, or you should rightfully say, this is a must-start player. Like, again, he was higher, lower, something like 16 fantasy points. If I go over and look at where Jahmyr Gibbs is right now, Jahmyr Gibbs on Underdog at the moment is currently higher, lower, 13.85. Henderson projected out better than Gibbs this week. So it wasn't a surprise that you should start him. Now, I will say, a lot of y'all are going to think it's crazy. If y'all want to go higher than Jahmyr Gibbs, 13.5 fantasy points, you can find that on Underdog Fantasy. Links in the description. It's in the comment section. It's in the live chat. If you use code FLOCK when you sign up to Underdog Fantasy, you will get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5, and you'll get a gimme pick. It'll be something like Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry, not Jalen Hurts. I think it'll be something like CeeDee Lamb, higher, lower, half a total yard, and free questions you can ask in the live streams. Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. You can find that link in the description and comment section. But looking at Drake May doesn't really run the ball much in this game, but you really didn't need to see Drake May run the ball much, right? I honestly think that this is very similar to what you have with some of these games that you get from Patrick Mahomes. Or Patrick Mahomes playing the Jets, Mahomes ain't going to go out there and run it. However, Patrick Mahomes playing the Baltimore Ravens in a divisional round game, Patrick Mahomes is going to hit you with 50 rushing yards. So in a blowout game, Drake May is not running it, but Drake May still has been incredible this season. I still have no hesitation with ranking Drake May as a must-start quarterback every single week. I have Drake May as QB4 in my rest of season rankings, and I think I could very easily just keep him there, to be honest. Now, moving over to TreVeyon Henderson, this is where it is brutal to talk about. Because, again, I had to play against TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson hits you with 19 carries, 5 receptions, goes for almost 100 total yards, and 3 touchdowns. While TreVeyon Henderson was a running back 1 in our ranks this week and a clear must-start name, I had previously kept TreVeyon Henderson as a running back 2 in our rest of season rankings based around the idea that, well, maybe when Ramondre is back next week, all of a sudden you won't have TreVeyon Henderson just dominating every single touch in this backfield. Where at one point he had like 95% of the snaps. Terrell Jennings wasn't after. He was never out there. At least not at the beginning. So if I'm looking at this and we are trying to project forward, there's no telling what Mike Vrabel's for sure going to do. If he looked at the past 2 weeks' performances from TreVeyon Henderson, and I don't know, as an idiot who just plays fantasy football all day, my brain is rotted out from the very stem. Don't have an ounce of real football knowledge, have a decent amount of fantasy knowledge, but not an ounce of real football. My assumption would be Ramondre's coming back to a tiny, tiny role. And Ramondre's effectively just going to be a handcuff back. But with that being said, I can't be 100% certain that's what's going to occur when we're looking at what Mike Vrabel's going to do. I can't say it for sure. And I agree we should move Henry down these ranks as well. I get it. And as I look at this, I honestly think if you told me Bucky Irving was going to be 100% healthy in week 12 and beyond, I would rather have Bucky over. You know what? Now that I really think about this, Henderson has the week 14 bye. So if these are rest of season rankings, we have weeks 12, 13, 14, and then the fantasy playoffs. So you have 2 weeks left to TreVeyon Henderson until the fantasy playoffs. So it's tough for me to get Henderson ahead of like Genty, Kyron, definitely not putting him ahead of Javonte. Because again, you look at Kyron, you look at Genty, you look at Judkins, all these players, you're going to get 33% more games from them. So I will update this, of course, throughout time. But for right now, I think I'm going to have TreVeyon Henderson at 15. I'm going to put a slight discount for the teams that are still fighting for that playoff spot because they're not going to have him in week 14, which again, they're only 3 weeks until the fantasy playoffs. If we exclude this week, Trevion Henderson already had his points this week. We're not including those in our rest of season. So you're going to get 33% fewer games. If you were a playoff team, though, you could very easily talk me into Trevion Henderson over Quinshon Judkins. But I have the concern with Ramondre coming back and Ramondre obviously not being the lead running back in this backfield. There's no way in hell that happens. But Ramondre seeing 40% of this backfield. Trevion Henderson getting 60%. And instead of him being an elite RB1 in fantasy, he's more so a running back too. So we're going to have Henderson at 15. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Maybe we move him up. Maybe we move him down. But I feel like that's a good starting spot in the rankings adjustment. Going over and looking at Stefon Diggs. Diggs was a much better start because you had no Kayshon Boutte. Boutte's been the top wide receiver in this offense so far this season when it comes to scoring touchdowns. Do I need to move Stefon Diggs dramatically in our rankings? I have Diggs here in the same tier as Deebo Samuel, Marv, Tedero McMillan, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Jordan Addison, Sutton. I'm assuming that we get Kayshon Boutte back this next week. Am I that concerned about Kayshon Boutte? No. Who would y'all rather have rest of season? Stefon Diggs or Marvin Harrison? Stefon Diggs or Marvin Harrison? Okay. We got Diggs. It looks like everybody's on Diggs. So we'll go ahead and we'll take that. I think Diggs can go to the top of this tier. I don't think he can go into D tier. In my mind, there's no argument to be made to put Diggs ahead of Waddle, Smith, Flowers, Higgins, Pittman, Olave, Rome. Even if you were to tell me that Boutte was out rest of season. So we're going to put Diggs at the top of this tier as wide receiver 21, but I don't think anything dramatic can happen from there. Hunter Henry gives you some target volume, but doesn't do too much. I don't feel like we need to move Hunter Henry. But I think that's all I'm going to have for this video. So in recap, Trevion Henderson, you'd assume he's earned more work over Ramondre Stevenson when Ramondre is back. Trevion looks to be a must-start player rest of season. Diggs looks to be a solid wide receiver 2 rest of season. Drake May was already a set it and forget it must-start quarterback every week. On the opposite side for the Jets, Breece Hall's nothing more than a running back 2. He's the only player you could consider starting. And most weeks it's going to be disappointing because it's a garbage offense. And for the love of God, Justin Fields, please start throwing the ball to Breece Hall a little bit more often. But I think that's all I got for y'all. I really appreciate you. Hope that you were not like me. Hope that you did not have to play against Trevion Henderson this week. Hopefully you did not play freaking Breece Hall. But I really appreciate you. I am going to end this live stream, package up some more hats, get some more hats shipped out to y'all tomorrow. And much love, ladies and gentlemen. Really appreciate you. And hope I get to see you out in the live stream tomorrow night.